I felt the evening air brush against my skin as I walked up her front steps, my heart beating with an anticipation I hadn't felt in decades. Marge's porch light cast a warm glow, and through the window I could see her moving gracefully around her kitchen. At 70, she still carried herself with the same confidence that had caught my attention all those years ago. I knocked softly, and when she opened the door, her eyes lit up with that familiar spark I remembered from our younger days. "Julia," she said, her voice carrying a warmth that made my stomach flutter. "I was hoping you'd come by." Hey there, beautiful souls. If you're loving this story already, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. She led me into her living room, where soft jazz played in the background, and candles flickered on every surface. The atmosphere was deliberately intimate, and I could tell she'd prepared for this moment as carefully as I had. We settled onto her couch with steaming cups of tea, our knees almost touching, the space between us charged with unspoken possibilities. "Remember when we were neighbors back in '85? She asked, her fingers wrapping around her mug. "You used to come over for coffee every Thursday morning." I smiled, feeling the memories wash over me. "I remember more than just the coffee, Marge." Her laugh was low, knowing. "Do you? Because I've been thinking about those mornings for 38 years. The confession hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I set my tea down and turned to face her fully. Her silver hair caught the candlelight, and I could see the woman I'd once been so drawn to, still vibrant, still magnetic. "I think about them too," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, "especially that last Thursday before you moved away." Her eyes darkened with memory. "The morning we almost, I repeated, letting the word linger. She reached out, then, her fingers finding mine, intertwining with a familiarity that made my breath catch. Her skin was softer now, marked by age, but her touch still sent the same electric current through me. "We're not young anymore, Julia," she said, her thumb tracing slow circles on the back of my hand. "But I still feel the same pull toward you." I leaned closer, drawn by an invisible force that had never truly faded. "Age hasn't dimmed what I feel when I look at you." Her free hand rose to cup my cheek, her touch gentle but certain. "Then why? Are we still talking?" The question dissolved the last of my hesitation. I closed the distance between us, pressing my lips to hers in a kiss that was 38 years in the making. It was soft at first, tentative, like we were rediscovering a language we'd once known fluently. But when she responded, deepening the connection, decades melted away. Her arms wrapped around me, pulling me closer until I was pressed against her, side. I could feel the steady rhythm of her heart, could smell the familiar scent of her perfume mixed with something uniquely her. My fingers found the buttons of her blouse, working them open with trembling hands. "Are you sure?" she whispered against my lips. "More sure than I've been about anything in years." She stood then, extending her hand to me with a smile that was both tender and mischievous. I followed her down the hallway to her bedroom, where more candles waited, their flames dancing across walls painted in warm earth tones. She turned to face me beside her bed, her hands finding the hem of my sweater. "I've imagined this moment so many times," she confessed as she lifted the fabric over my head. "And how did it compare?" I asked, helping her out of her own clothes. "Reality is so much better." We moved together with the patience that comes with experience, taking time to explore each other's bodies with reverent touches. Her hands mapped the curves I'd gained over the decades, her fingers tracing silver stretch marks like they were precious artwork. "You're beautiful," she murmured against my collarbone, her lips following the path her words had taken. I arched beneath her touch, my body responding with an eagerness that surprised me. When she guided me back onto her bed, I felt like I was floating, suspended in a dream I'd never dared to fully acknowledge. Her mouth found mine again as her hands explored lower, drawing soft gasps from my lips. Every touch was deliberate, measured, the work of someone who understood that time was a luxury to be savored rather than rushed. "I want to taste you," she whispered, and the words sent a shiver of anticipation through me. I nodded, unable to form words as she kissed her way down my body, her lips leaving trails of warmth on my skin. When she settled between my thighs, her breath warm against my most sensitive places, I gripped the sheets beneath me. The first gentle stroke of her tongue made me gasp, my back arching involuntarily. She took her time, learning my responses, adjusting her rhythm to match my breathing. Her hands held my hips steady as she worked, alternating between feather-light touches and firmer pressure that had me calling her name. "Don't stop," I breathed, my fingers tangling in her silver hair. She hummed her response against me, the vibration adding another layer of sensation that pushed me closer to the edge. When the tension finally broke, waves of pleasure crashed over me, leaving me trembling and breathless beneath her ministrations. She crawled back up to lay beside me, gathering me into her arms as my breathing slowly returned to normal. Was that worth the 38-year wait? She asked, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. Absolutely, I managed, turning in her arms to face her. But I'm not done with you yet. I kissed her deeply, tasting myself on her lips as my hands began their own exploration of her body. She was softer now than she'd been in our youth, but every curve felt perfect beneath my touch. When I took her silhouette in my mouth, rolling the sensitive skin gently between my lips, she exhaled sharply. Julia, she breathed, her fingers threading through my hair. I moved lower, kissing and touching every inch of skin I could reach, reacquainting myself with her body's geography. When I finally settled between her legs, she was already warm and ready for my attention. I started slowly, remembering the way she used to respond to different touches, adjusting my technique based on the sound she made. Her breathing grew shallower, as I found the rhythm that made her hips lift toward me, her fingers gripping the bedsheets. "Right there," she gasped, and I focused my efforts on that spot, bringing her higher and higher until she reached her peak with a cry that echoed through the room. Afterward, we lay entwined in her bed, our bodies still humming with satisfaction. The candles had burned lower, casting longer shadows across the walls, and outside her window I could hear the gentle sounds of the neighborhood settling into sleep. "I can't believe we waited so long," I said, tracing lazy patterns on her chest. "Maybe we needed to be this age to fully appreciate it," she replied, her fingers combing through my hair. "Young passion burns hot and fast. This feels deeper," I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. What we'd shared tonight wasn't just about physical attraction or making up for lost time. It was about connection, about finding someone who truly saw you and accepted every part of who you'd become. "Will you stay the night?" she asked, her voice soft with hope. "I'd love to." We spent the next hour talking quietly, sharing stories about the years we'd missed in each other's lives. She told me about her late husband, her children who lived across the country, her work as a retired librarian. I shared my own journey through marriage, divorce, and the rediscovery of my own desires. "I came out to my daughter last year," I admitted. "She was so supportive, told me she'd always suspected. How does it feel finally living authentically?" "Liberating." "Terrifying." "Perfect." I paused, meeting her eyes. "Especially tonight." We made our connection again before dawn, slower this time, taking even more care to memorize every touch, every response. When sunlight began filtering through her curtains, I felt renewed in a way I hadn't experienced in years. Over breakfast, we talked about what this meant for us going forward. Neither of us wanted to rush into anything, but the desire to explore this newfound intimacy was undeniable. "I should probably head home before the neighbors start talking," I said, though I was reluctant to leave. "Let them talk," she replied with a grin. "We're two consenting adults who found happiness. If they have a problem with that, it says more about them than us." I was walking back to my house when I nearly collided with Claire, my closest friend, who was out for her morning jog. Her eyebrows shot up when she took in my appearance. The same clothes from yesterday, my hair messed from sleep and passion. "Julia, did you?" She looked toward Marge's house, then back at me with growing understanding. "I did," I said, unable to suppress my smile. "Oh my God." She grabbed my arm, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Tell me everything." "Well, not everything, but how do you feel?" "Incredible. Alive. Like I've been sleepwalking for decades and finally woke up." Claire hugged me tightly. "I'm so happy for you. You've been glowing lately, but this morning you're absolutely radiant." As we talked, I noticed movement in Marge's window. She waved at us, her smile visible even from the distance, and I felt my heart skip in response. "So what happens now?" Claire asked. "I honestly don't know," I admitted. "But for the first time in years, I'm excited to find out." That evening, Marge called to invite me to dinner. We spent the night cooking together, moving around her kitchen with an easy intimacy that felt both new and familiar. When she brushed past me to reach for a spice, her hand lingered on my waist, sending familiar sparks through my system. "I've been thinking about you all day," she confessed as we cleaned up after the meal. "Good thoughts, I hope?" "The best kind." She turned to face me, backing me gently against the counter, the kind that make it hard to concentrate on anything else. She kissed me then, deep and purposeful, her body pressing against mine in a way that made my knees weak. When we broke apart, both of us breathing hard, she took my hand and led me back to her bedroom. This time, there was less hesitation, more confidence in our touches. We undressed each other slowly, savoring the anticipation. When she lay back on her bed and pulled me down beside her, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. We explored each other's bodies with growing boldness, learning what brought the most pleasure, what made the other gasp and arch with need. When she moved to straddle me, her warmth pressing against my thigh as she found her rhythm, I thought I might lose my mind from the beauty of it. "You feel so good," I whispered, my hands guiding her movements. She leaned down to capture my lips in a heated kiss, her body moving against mine with increasing urgency. When she reached her peak, her head thrown back in ecstasy, I felt my own body respond in sympathy, pleasure radiating through me just from watching her fall apart above me. Later, as we lay curled together in the afterglow, she traced gentle patterns on my skin. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," she admitted. "After my husband died, I thought that part of my life was over. And now I feel like it's just beginning." We continued to see each other regularly over the following weeks, our connection deepening with each encounter. Sometimes we would simply talk for hours, sharing memories and dreams. Other times, passion would overtake us before we'd even finished greeting each other. The neighborhood gradually became aware of our relationship, and while there were a few raised eyebrows and whispered comments, most people were genuinely happy for us. Claire became our biggest supporter, often joking that she wanted to find her own Marge to rekindle her passion. 1 month after that first evening, Marge asked if I wanted to take a trip with her, a weekend getaway to a bed and breakfast in the mountains. The prospect of having uninterrupted time together, away from familiar surroundings, sent excitement coursing through me. "I'd love that," I told her, already imagining cozy mornings in a mountain cabin, afternoons exploring hiking trails, and nights discovering new ways to please each other. As I think back on that transformative evening at Marge's house, I'm struck by how unpredictable life can be. At 68, when many people my age are settling into quiet retirement, I found myself embarking on the most passionate relationship of my life. Age, I learned, doesn't diminish desire. It simply seasons it with wisdom and appreciation. The fear that held me back for so many years seems foolish now. What if I'd never knocked on her door that night? What if we'd continued to exchange polite waves across our yards, never acknowledging the electricity that sparked between us? Sometimes the most beautiful chapters of our lives are the ones we write when we thought the story was nearly over. Marge and I proved that passion doesn't have an expiration date, that connection can bloom at any age, and that it's never too late to follow your heart toward happiness. So here's my question for you. If you had a neighbor who stirred feelings you'd buried for decades, would you have the courage to knock on their door? Have you ever let fear keep you from pursuing something that could transform your life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. And if this reminded you that it's never too late for passion, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that celebrate love at every age, and ring that notification bell so you never miss when I share the next chapter. Life is too short for regrets. Sometimes the best adventures are waiting right next door.